unmute. Welcome to the May 23rd Staffing and Workforce Retention work group. And I'm just looking at the recruitment work plan, and Sharon and or Allison, you want to just give a quick update on where you are in that for this recording?
Sure. We've had a chance to meet together and develop the worksheet that we're going to use to try to gather all the information. Sharon is handling the Vermont side. I'm handling the New Hampshire side. We are feeling fairly confident that we will have a pretty good inventory in place by June 30th, as we promised. There will be holes, and we're looking to Amy and Amelia and some other expert resources that we have in this group to review it and maybe fill in those holes once we've got it structured and it becomes easier so that you don't have to start from scratch. And I think that we understand better as we tried to even tackle what kind of a worksheet would be helpful, what some of the challenges are between trying to norm across different regulatory environments and different maybe philosophical staffing structures from the two states. So more to follow, but we are on the path.
Great, thank you. The workforce development bills, there's been quite a lot of changes. We don't have anybody on here right now to update those. I do know that in New Hampshire, the 446 bill was decided that the New Hampshire Childcare Advisory Council would meet and come up with recommendations about how to use and what amount of gopher money would be needed to impact recruiting and retention in the state. And I know that I believe they had until the end of this month to submit that plan. Okay. Work group created recommendations for action goal number 3. I did have a staff member go through the new New Hampshire licensing and come up with a spreadsheet, Andra, of all the regs that impact recruitment and retention in case Sunny didn't get a chance to do it. I wanted that list anyway. And so I guess we could go through, if no one has any time to do Vermont, we could do Vermont as well. Should I just go ahead and have her do that?
I'll email Ruth and see if she's started it or is doing it, or I don't want to just make the assumption she hasn't.
If she doesn't have time, it's not a big deal. I can have somebody go through it. We have a little more capacity right now. Okay. Perfect. If she's done it, that's great too. Or if she started it, we could take it from there. Developing marketing plan for the general public. Maybe we could take a couple minutes on this because it's been a while since we circled back on this. Is there, Andrew, was there discussion, I guess I don't remember exclusively, about the, oh yes. Yeah, is that a, Sharon just put something in the chat, Vermont legislation update. They, what they did is they gave $7 million for retention bonuses and support for students to enter childcare workforce. That's with discretionary money, their ARPA-D money.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Yeah, we haven't had an exclusive ARPA D disclosure of, we have a budget of what they want to do, but we don't have the projects of what they're actually doing in New Hampshire. And Vermont, I know that they're doing that, where they're doing the retention bonuses. They're doing support for students to enter childcare workforce. They're doing the high school, 100,000 to support high school students interested in careers through the pre-apprenticeship program. And then also, I believe that funded VACE's or Vermont AEYC's effort to help with student loans.
Yeah, that was the last legislative session, but that has launched, that opened up on May 1st. So, I mean, I think that the extension of the student loan, process where, the hold on payments has made it that it hasn't had the influx of applications that they initially anticipated, but there's definitely interest in that student loan repayment assistance program. I can put the info in the chat if it's helpful.
Are you going to include that in your workforce? Do you have a section for like ARPA related or something? Workforce support? It's like so much out there.
I think we have a resources section, I think is one of the things. You can correct me if my memory is wrong, Allison, but we will include programs because that is, a multi-year program.
Yeah, I think this is again where we start to get confusion about what is a program. Like, so this is a funding stream. In essence, it's not really a program. It's not specifying that this particular pathway must be taken. It's saying this is a funding stream, right? So a funding stream to support high school students. There's this pre-apprenticeship program. And so that's the funding stream, right? Is that what I'm understanding, Sharon? And that's what
I think we were actually had moved on to the student loan repayment assistance program.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No. There's there's a lot of different things happening for sure. So yes.
These are, short-term funding related. They're not necessarily like permanent legislation. So there's a lot of that going on that we need to keep track of too. And if I know that what I was talking about, Senate Bill 446 is actually not ARPA-D related. They're actually looking to access leftover Gopher CARES Act money in the state. So a lot of businesses had to turn back money because they couldn't use it. So they were left with a pot of money. And so this was a proposal to, I've heard anywhere between $8 and $15 million to similar to the $7 million retention bonuses, to do something like that. So that's separate actually from the ARPA-D money. So that's a whole nother piece that's going on that we don't know about quite yet, that will impact whatever we come up with. It's going to impact that. But I think, okay, taking it from there, how can this group get, how can we communicate, especially to the workforce, and keep them updated about what's going on? If we're having a hard time tracking it, I can't imagine what directors and staff are trying to track. Is there any communication source that we can think of to communicate a message to New Hampshire and Vermont providers of what is available?
Yeah,
like as a package.
Well, and I think that these programs, like the specific program, the student loan repayment assistance program, is available through the Vermont AEYC newsletter and e-news. And I understand that New Hampshire their AEYC chapter has closed, but Vermont AEYC, anyone can sign up to receive those messages, and they would welcome anyone, especially along the border, that would like to be members of Vermont AEYC as their optional state affiliate when they're NACE members. So that would be one. And I know that there are several very active Facebook groups as well as listservs that I think we could just make sure that we're sharing information with them that already have a strong following would be one option.
I'm just thinking of like a one-stop shop so that, I mean, we can, and then in it could, embedded in it could be subscribe, you know, connect here to subscribe to the VC newsletter. There's so much going on. So I'm just wondering if there's any way to create that communication where we could highlight, like have this kind of menu of what is happening and then highlight pieces of it. I mean, ECA could even do that once a week, send out, by the way, you know, people who in Vermonters working in a program in Vermont, there is a college loan program right now. Go right now to this website and then alternate the next week for something else.
I have to say that this is what people tried to do with PPP and EIDL funds and all of these kinds of things. And they were wholly unsuccessful because the information was coming too fast for it to be interpreted and distributed in any kind of meaningful way. And so what we might think about, it's interesting, FEMA took on the responsibility in New Hampshire of being kind of an information source, and they're not going to be an information source anymore because, quote, the emergency's over, right? So I don't know, but I just raise it for you, Amy, that those organizations like the chambers tried to do some of this, and most of them really had a very hard time getting the information and distilling it and being able, it was a big time suck. And a lot of people still showed up and said they didn't know what was going on. I mean, I guess one of the things that so I don't know.
I'm actually wondering if instead of putting the onus of knowing everything that's going on onto each individual program director and or worker, it's actually more a question of, do they know where to go to get the information when it's relevant to them? When they say, I have somebody that needs college credits, I have somebody that needs a retention bonus. What was that thing again? They know the 2 or 3 places that they need to go to get that information, rather than it being like out in the universe or being pelted at them through whatever communication source. I just know I'm not an ECE provider, and more like additional information sources isn't going to be what's going to be helpful to me at this point. So I'm just, and also like this landscape is changing so quickly, right? Like policies are changing, hopefully. So I'm wondering if it's more that of like having, that's why I put in the ECE listserv, because it can go there, it can live there, anybody can sign up for that. They can decide how much or how little they get from that. But it's a place to go and also to discuss it. It doesn't just need to be a posting place. It's supposed to be a community discussion list. So if people have questions about it or whatever, and then they can cross post it on their Facebook group, or whatever it is. So
I wonder if we had a page on our website for providers and just had a very high level description. Vermont AEYC college loan repayment, and then the contact information. Like they click and it brings them there. So they could peruse it and we could highlight something from there every week or something like that. So that I know every time I go to the Vermont, I can't remember if it's BBF or the CDD, or maybe it's Northern Lights, but there's those, I think it's a CDD. They have, if you move up in a level, they have these career credits, these ladder credits. As you go up the ladder, you get an award. So getting a CDA is worth $500 and nobody does it. they don't know about it. Like we need to
So you're
highlight
talking, are you talking about the Vermont bonus program that's administered from Vermont AYC?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had so many people who did not know about it. And it's from, like, well, how do you not know about it? $500. So having a place for that.
So I think that, like, I'm just gonna, recommend that people connect with the administrators, similar to what, I think I have already heard, who's administering the program so that the information stays current. If you put it on, I think, career services through Vermont AYC, advocacy through, you list each of, and you can list the Vermont, New Hampshire sides. I think that if you start listing specific programs, then you have the responsibility of monitoring, updating and making sure all the links are accurate and the information is still current. And I think it's really helped, part of the, the work that we do with Let's Grow Kids team is when we provide coaching and TA is we direct them to the source, teaching them to fish so that they can, advocate for themselves and access resources. And so ensuring that they know about, Northern Lights Career Resource Advisors, they know who Amelia is, what she can do for them. And in some of those, like, I think connecting to those organizations that can be the direct support is what's really helpful. And it may just be that they just need to know that they're there if they're not connected already.
I mean, I get a ton of emails because I sign up for all of these and I still lose track. So that's why I'm looking forward to your spreadsheet and see if that helps put everything in one place. But the Vermont AYC programs and services, career services, that link alone should be at the top of their list. Like that should be where they go for everything. They should know it well. There's so many things on that one link. So, maybe we just promote that link constantly.
Yeah, I think what you're maybe pointing to is a couple of things that could live on your website, Amy, and then could also be ported to other websites, like they could link to your website. But I think that you're thinking about, I think to Andra's point is like, and what you're saying is, we kind of need to think of it in a frequently asked questions model. Like, where do I go to find out information about X, right? Where do I go to find out information about Y? Where do I find the best information about this? And that all you're doing is pointing them back out to whatever those expert sources are. But instead of indexing them in the way that the agencies and everything index themselves, we index them according to what you're trying to find out. And so that and so it could be for center directors, for the workforce, I mean, we could have a few categories and try to come up with the most frequently asked questions and then figure out what are the resources that we point them to. And we may identify that there are some gaps. There may be not an existing resource, like but probably there is somebody collecting the information. They just aren't doing a good job of disseminating it. But I do think everybody's right about the sort of information overload. Like, it's like, okay, I was like, oh my God, that's something really good to know about when I need to know this, but right now I don't need to know that. And so I'm going to forget about it 10 minutes later, right? But I think that's the kind of help page that you're talking about. And I think it would get a lot more traction and be a lot easier to maintain than kind of a push newsletter or anything else, right?
Exactly. That's exactly, Allison, what I was thinking. It's like,
Yeah.
I used to know that. I don't know it right now because I don't need it.
Right.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And then our job could be to just feature some of those to bring them back to their attention again, or introduce something new.
Yeah, or just
Again,
even, I mean,
just
then what happens, I think, is the nice thing is, if this would all work together, I mean, this is a fantasy proposition, but I will just, here in my fantasy, what would happen is you could then have a whole bunch of, you could have a bot handling email questions that you get that said, where do I find out information about financial aid? And they get sent back the link to those resources. And it's just, so that it stops taking everybody's time to recompose an email and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, you could basically use a bot help desk model or resource distribution if you had it, like how when you type in to chat with somebody, like, okay, I need to know about this. And then they go, did this answer your question? It's like, no, of course not, because you didn't really understand my question. But yeah. Yeah, exactly, Andra. Like you could push it out, or you could always have it at the bottom of every communication or. But I'm also just thinking about streamlining answering the questions that Amy gets. Like, okay, yeah, here's my little, when anybody asks me about ARPA money, here are the 4 places you need to go look.
So, Amy, are you saying that there's a spot on the ECA website that exists now or could develop to hold this resource?
There can be. We had the exact same issue during COVID, like trying to stay up to date with what was happening and the changes and interpretations and who needs what when. It was really complicated. So we are currently just redoing the entire website. And now's a really good time to, if we're going to do something, to do it now, because the entire website's going to be different.
Okay, so who's going to compile the information and who's going to maintain it?
I really like Allison's reference to FAQs, because when those are the questions that we get. Can you help me with this, that, and the other thing? Like there's the standard things we can start with, and then we can build in as things start to happen or more frequently be asked, we can add that to the FAQ list with the contacts, or where to go, the resource right there. So but the point is to make sure that they use it when they need it. So when they ask us, instead of us telling them, we could tell them to go back to the website and use that website so that they can learn to go back. Like even now, I couldn't remember. I knew it's something about a career ladder award, but I couldn't remember if it was the CDD, the BBF, or if it was VACE or what. I couldn't remember, and I've been there quite a lot. So that would be really helpful. They go on, they're like, oh, I heard about this thing about college loan repayment, but I can't remember where to find it. Then it could be, we could say, oh, here's your resource from this webpage, instead of 5 million emails. So I like that idea. Just wondering if we're doing our due diligence as far as keeping the momentum going. Has everyone heard that Ready, Set, Grow and Enfield closed? 55 slots.
Wow.
I don't know if we should. Yeah.
How many of them were they all in use at the time that it closed, or?
But I think that is a major part of the issue, which is what I'm fearing is lack of staff means they don't get enough enrollment to break even. And it was a rental property. So you can't afford to pay your rent and the electricity and everything. Most of those are, all of those, especially if you have triple net lease, those are fixed costs. They're there if you have 5 kids, and they're there if you have 50 kids. So right. So your guess is that although it represents 55 slots, it's probably not 55 families impacted at this very moment, because probably they weren't able to maximize their enrollment because they didn't have sufficient staff to keep all of those rooms open. Is that basically? That is true. But it is, when we're talking about license capacity.
No, it's definitely, it's just, I'm just trying to understand exactly sort of how it ripples out in the immediate term, right? And also, absolutely, it's lost capacity, even if it wasn't being utilized, right? So,
Yep. So we need to be, I just want to be aware that if there's, I'm not a marketing person, so I don't know, but if there's something we need to do to keep the public kind of, and maybe, Andrew, maybe this comes back to my question I had like half an hour ago, which was when we did the first symposium, we had talked about doing an update, like symposium format. And I'm wondering, like, when do we, and I think part of it, part of it is, here's an interesting little thing. It goes over to retention. Our wellness challenge, our wellness campaign is done. We did 8 weeks. We have feedback from that as far as what went well and what we need to change. And then I said, I really don't want to drop them for the summer. So what can we do for the summer to keep people engaged, to keep people connected and interested, and add a little fun to the summer? One of the staff in the R3 committee said she went to the first birthday party she's been to in like 2 years, and she was looking forward to it. So they named it, the campaign for the summer, called Rediscover Summer. And Allison's here. Every week we're going to engage staff, not directors, but staff again, back to our wellness page on our in Facebook, and do like simple fun questions, and then they get entered in to win a prize. I'm going to try to, we have some leftover gift certificates and things like that from the wellness campaign that we're going to use for that, just so that every week there's somebody doing something over the summer. They do not have the capacity of the time to track steps or to engage in anything or show up at a meeting, but this will be passive. Very short, fun. They said that the video part of the wellness challenge was fun, interacting was fun. So they wanted to keep that alive for the summer. Super easy. What they did say is that it would really be helpful to the staff that are working now if there was a message of hope, that we were communicating better about that we're trying something, that Vital Communities and the effort with ECE2, Chamber of Commerce, all of these people are the corporate council. I mean, all of these people are got their back and we're working on the problem, like just some little message of hope. And that's what I wanted to bring up.
I have two questions. One is not questions. Two replies. One is, I think this is really important, and one of the things I was going to ask about was sort of reviving our goal around having some kind of workforce retention, that kind of thing, because we also haven't touched on that in a while. And another piece of my reply would be, I think having a sort of report back out, compliment, bookend, or whatever to the symposia is going to be something that is probably going to happen after I'm done on June. Because in order for things to get put together in a way that's going to be helpful for the next 3 years, there's no way an event like that I'm going to be able to help with that. And we have this other community conversation that we're planning to have around this very specific idea in the Lebanon area. So I want to be respectful and how much we talked about how much that conversation needs to be held in a really specific way. So rather than having 2 events, but I think that should be very soon on the horizon. And I will be putting together materials and things to help that take off as soon as possible. So I'm also curious about what we can do to have some sort of morale boost. We're working with you sort of kind of thing for the summer that is really about retaining and supporting the folks that are already in the field. I do want to go back though, because I feel like kind of left off on this resources page piece, and I just want to get specific about putting that into having some like measurable who's, when, how can I be helpful? It sounds like it's going to go on the ECU website, but like Amy, do you have folks that have the capacity right now to like start putting an FAQ together, and like could maybe one or two other people from this
Yeah.
group?
No, that
Okay.
we will, yeah, we can do that. We've hired somebody on staff who has like this amazing technology talent. And she's also working with the web person. So the two of them together, I think, are going to be able to do well, much better than I could. But I guess what I was like thinking in the back of my head was like, in the newspaper, like messages from corporate counsel, a message from a corporation, a message from vital communities, like little messages out. And I know no one reads the newspaper, but somehow messaging out to the general public that we could feature, like, check this out, you made the news, whatever that news is. Like a literal message from the work of vital communities directly to those staff, how to get that there. I'm not sure if you know what I mean, but
How to get the resource list? How to get to, is that what you're
not
talking?
the resource list, just we see you, we hear you, please stay, please don't give up. We're in this together, we're aware of what's going on. Like, I think that's, that goes a long way.
I think it should come with some gift certificates, and
That would be wonderful too, but it's,
frankly,
this is like
yeah, I think both.
general public, like general, just out there, we have your back, like, and maybe it goes through maybe they're quotes from a message on through the Facebook page for staff that we have like 90 some people on right now, that they hear a message from the corporate council. We are aware of your issue. We're working on this. Like, please, we thank you for everything that you do for families in the Upper Valley. Something like a direct message. They want to be seen. Thank you, ECE teachers. All of you ECE teachers, or something like that, where I can push that out and be like, see, you're not alone.
So, like I've seen like we had the president at River Valley signed a proclamation thanking childcare providers because it was National Childcare Provider Day. And then, like, and there are these, I think that there are and I'm sort of responding to Lori a little bit, right? That there are these periodic things that happen. I think the problem is getting them to, so like, we encouraged all of our staff and, right. So I think I don't think we've been really, to be honest, like, I don't think vital communities in this effort has really been focused on that kind of immediate short-term reinforcement. Because like, I would say that like some of the things we're doing are really about system change. And so I don't mean to be such a cynic, but like if I were sitting in one of those classrooms, like hang in there, we see you, we're working on it, I'd be like, yeah, I don't see any evidence of that. So thanks so much, but I'm tired of just the little thank you note. So I don't know. That's where I kind of go to Andrew's, like, well, it needs to be something concrete, right? So like Sharon's idea of the meal train and stuff, but I don't see a lot of people are so drained, right? I don't know if anybody else is feeling that way. But
I'd love to get them all gift cards and everything, but you're talking like 1,000 people. That's just not, remember we had talked about that, it'd end up being like $10 or something. I do think that the directors and the staff that I've talked about and updated on the vital communities work, they did not know it was still going. They did not know that there was that much effort being put in by people. and it was the word hope. They're like, just a little bit of hope. And that's why we're doing our weekly fun engagement piece with a prize. And we're going to try to push out as many prizes as we can, even if it's, you know, we were thinking like for ice cream or movie passes or whatever we can grab from donations plus what we have. But
why don't we, so what I'm hearing is that the field, the workforce is not like aware that this initiative is going anywhere, is like thing that it's active, that it's working on things. So one thing that's really important, this is sort of like when I was speaking to the corporate council, they're like, well, what can we do? Like, we can't put all of our money into solving this problem. And I was like, well, no, but you know a lot of influential people, CEO of Simon Pierce, et cetera, et cetera. You could tell them how much you know it's an issue, and like you can talk to people who are influential. So please use your contacts. Say the same thing to everybody involved here, that please use your contacts to talk about the work that we're doing. I know not everybody from the workforce can be part of these work groups, but that is one way to know what is happening, is to, like, again, there's a place to go for that, right? They can go to the website and see the recordings. They can, you know, check out the overview of the initiative and see what the goals are. So that information is available. So when people ask, like, we can point them to the right, the Vital Communities ECE page, for example. What I'm hearing though is that it might be helpful to have a press release of some kind. So I can work with the comm people over at, thanks, Allison. I can work with the comm people at Vital Communities to put together some kind of a press release. So that would be to say, here is what is happening. Here's a, you know, publicly facing update in lieu of an event being planned within the next couple of months. We, like, this initiative has a budget that really hasn't been touched yet, because there's been so much else going on and we've been forming our goals and things. So if there are, I really feel like hope is important, but I kind of side with Allison on that. Like, yeah, once I see, like, I want you to put your money where your mouth is, kind of a thing at this point. And I also think that is its own kind of hope, that somebody is really willing to invest in your gas money or your food or like a nice spa day, whatever it is we come up with, right? So I'm wondering if we do some combination of, like, maybe I can, because the corporate council really wanted to know what they could do, and well, we can't change everything overnight, and it's not up to us, and what can we do? It's like, well, could you like talk to your buddy at King Arthur? You know, like, can you be donating something concrete that goes press release that's very specific? Like, the messaging could be crafted so that they're not two unrelated things. It's like, this is coming from Vital Communities, from this initiative, and here's a thing you can hold and do something with, that are words that back up our words. And by our, I mean all of the people, not just Vital Communities, but all of the people involved with this initiative, because he's just the convener. So
there are there messages of hope embedded in what Sharon had to say about the CDD and the Agency of Natural Resources to provide Vermont state park passes? That's exclusive. It feels very good to walk up and say, I'm, you know,
exactly,
an early childhood teacher, and I know it's free pass to a park, but still.
Well, and I would just like to interject that, you know, initially early childhood educators were not included. It was, you know, K-12 system, and it was the advocacy. And I feel like that's a part of the hope. Your advocacy matters. You advocated to be included in this benefit as an educator. And guess what? We heard you. And, you know, we know that many families, you know, early on their wages as early childhood educators, they can't afford a pass. Like, you know, like, that's part of the piece of connecting the system dots, is that, you know, this is something that you'll have access to for your family this summer, because we value you as an early childhood educator. And guess what? This is direct result of your advocacy that we see you. So I feel like, you know, sometimes hope is that you have power. And I think that that's part of what, you know, we have the opportunity to sort of highlight, you know, these retention bonuses, that, you know, that is a huge investment in early childhood educators. Not every, you know, there are a lot of industries that people are weary and tired and are not well compensated. And it was early childhood educators that rose to the top. And so I do think that it's a matter of framing things in a way that are hopeful. And I think there's some, yes, it's hard. Nobody's saying that it isn't, but I feel like we are in a place that feels really hopeful now. So we just have to keep, encouraging them and talk about like
You're in charge of the hope message. You've got it. Exactly.
I've been called an eternal optimist occasionally. So, but I do think, like right now, when we're talking about workforce crisis and I know it's different on the different sides of the border, but I think nationally the conversation is important as well, because that does encompass both Vermont and New Hampshire. And so I do think that there are some pieces that are national conversations that could be captured as well to encourage hope. And I think that, the fact that someone can become an early childhood educator here in Vermont without any college debt, like that isn't the people that are actually doing the job today, but guess what? They need those people to help them do the job for tomorrow. And so there are pieces even connected to that could be sort of reframed. And as far as the meal train thing, like I agree. I think that it's like not the easiest thing, but I have to say, like, it was a good PR campaign for a business to say they donated, a meal to a particular department, or in this case, it could be a particular, center in their community. And it was a great PR campaign, and it was a feel good for your parents to make donations and, buy bagels for a department. So I think that it's more about the messaging that is a piece of this that I think is really important that Andrew brought up, that we want to make sure we keep track of.
Years ago, I was in high school. I worked at the Whale's Tail water park. I was in charge of the frog bog. And they gave us every summer, because we were paid nothing and worked every weekend, a pass, this book. It had a pass to every New Hampshire, whatever. New Hampshire owns its own recreational sites. So Storyland, I think Whale's Tail, of course, gave us free, whatever, but Mount Washington, a pass to go to Mount Washington. It was a book, and I'd never used it. And I had a friend of mine who was like, how come you never use any of those? I'm like, I don't know. I just never. So he's like, we're going to do them all in one weekend. So we did. It was so much fun. I've gone back. I never would have gone if he hadn't told me, but I was just thinking of that book. Like, how much does that book cost? Can the state give all early childhood providers a book, or can we in Upper Valley give every provider a book? How much does that book cost? In Vermont, how much do they own state in Vermont? Do they own state sites like that, museums and things like that?
I mean, I think the state parks is about as close as, but I know that there are other ways. Like, I think that, like, on the shared services website, there were discounts for early childhood educators to go to, like, ECHO and different things that are on the website.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about how the library has passes?
Yes, the
like
passes.
Package.
Yep.
Passes. Like, I don't know how that was set up, but I mean, librarians are awesome allies, by the way. So
Yes.
at any point we wanted to ask any of the local librarians in the area, like, they would freaking help us out if we had any ideas to, like, for like specific, really neat, opportunities. There's lots of like, and I guess the thing about this is, like, for businesses to donate a discount or even like an experience, a one-time experience for somebody, there's not like a billion people who are going to take advantage of this. Do you know what I mean? But it's building. It's honestly, it's like a lot of people are like, I don't know what to do about this crisis, right? It's like, well, you can at least be an ally. That's a huge deal. Like, that's not nothing. So I don't know. I think this is like, it both gives people, it gives like the recipients hope, but it also gives people who are like, I don't know what to do and it's terrible, something like really concrete that people are like fully grateful for. So.
And for those that this is new, it's an educational opportunity for them to understand some of the systemic challenges in a deeper way, to become more engaged in, system change.
That's all really good. I don't want to start another conversation with 5 minutes left. So, and I have a lot on my brain right now. This is all great. I need to get off and call a librarian. So find out how to access all that good stuff.
They'll have all kinds of ideas too.
Oh yeah,
For real.
absolutely. I hadn't, never thought of them as a resource until this very moment. So this is great.
All right, well, I'll connect with our comms team to talk about like what might be kind of a public facing message we could put together and what the format might be and forum and everything. And we can keep thinking about what kind of tangible something we want to connect to that. So, because I think, yeah, again, like having the messaging be is going to be, I feel like that would be really powerful for folks, frankly. Because we are all in it together.
Who owns Montshire Museum?
I think it's a nonprofit.
It is, yep.
Okay, that's my question. Kim?
Yeah.
Did you want to chime in?
Oh, no, I was just commenting on the Montshire. I love this idea though, and I apologize, I haven't even introduced myself, but I'm new to the group and have been kind of struggling with, all right, where can I plug in? And I'll definitely do some more brainstorming on this thought of, even just thinking about some of the bigger employers, would they be willing to pony up a bit and put something on their website, that we could take and get discounts somewhere or gift certificates, or I think there's a lot they'd be willing to do if somebody just gave them a concrete idea to buy into.
100%. Oil change, whatever.
Yeah.
Seriously, save me $50. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank
I'm going to get off and call librarian. You will have a wonderful week.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye.
thanks.